Welcome to First Take Math. My name is Brian Thomas. We're going to do a part 2 lesson tonight. We're going to do two-step equations involving a little bit different variation. I want to do this first example two different ways. The first way we can look at this problem is, again, we're trying to figure out what can you divide by 3 and get 20 or get an 8. One thing we can do is, since we're dividing by 3, we're allowed to rewrite this as dividing each piece by 3. Since 3 has to go in a v, I can just leave that as 3 goes in a v, leave that as a fraction. But 3 does go in a 9, so I can break that apart as v over 3 plus 3, and then that could equal 8. So by doing that, I can now create a two-step problem. My first step would be to subtract, since I need a 0 pair, I need a -3 here, and I would also need a -3 on this side. By doing so, we should see that the 3 and the -3 are going to zero out, and then we're going to have v over 3 is equal to then an 8 and a -3 would end up being a 5. From here, we're trying to figure out, well, what can you divide by 3 and get 5? And we've learned, if you go the other direction, you can put it back together using multiplication. So if we multiply 5 times 3, that'll tell you what v is, if you did not see that. So v is going to equal then 5 times 3. In other words, v should equal 15. And if we check that, 15 plus 9 will be 24, and 24 divided by 3 does give me 8. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. Another strategy is make this 3 divide out of the problem. And to make a 3 divide out of the problem, what we're allowed to do is multiply each side by 3. So let's multiply each side by 3 and let's see what happens. On this side, again, the reason we multiply by the 3 is because a 3 and a 3, top and bottom like that, they will divide out because 3 does go in 3 one time and just divides out the problem. So that now leaves me v plus 9 is equal to then 8 times 3 would be 24. And you can kind of see this is more of a vintage two-step problem now. We multiply by 3, and now we're going to use the 0 pair of a -9, and that is going to allow us to get the v equals 15 as our answer. So instead of going after the 9 first, when it looks like this, it's better to go after the fraction part first, which is going to create more whole number math for us. So looking at this next example, we have 2 times the quantity n plus 5 is equal to -2. One thing we've learned is we're allowed to distribute the 2 through the parentheses, and that's going to create an expression where we no longer have any parentheses. So if I multiply the 2 through the parentheses, we get 2n plus 10 is equal to a -2. So notice how we can distribute the 2 to both terms inside the parentheses. Now this should look familiar to you. We can now move the 10 out of the way by using its 0 pair. And we know that the 2n is now left over on its side because a 10 and a -10 will zero out. And on the right hand side, a -2 and a -10 would give me a -12. And at this point, we kind of look at it, 2 times what number is a -12? If you can't see that, we are allowed to work backwards and divide. So n is going to equal then -12 divided by 2. So n is going to equal then a -6. If we check that, a -6 goes in plus 5, that's going to be a -1, and 2 times -1 does indeed give me a -2. That would check out. To make this more of a two-step problem, the problem could actually be worked a little bit differently. this is one of these special cases. I could get rid of the 2 if I divide by 2. I'd only want to divide by 2 if both sides can be divisible by 2. And I know this can be divided by 2. And a negative 2 can also be divided by 2. So another strategy is to actually just divide each of these by a 2. The 2's are going to divide out, which leaves me then my expression n plus 5. And then we know that a negative 2 divided by 2 would be a negative 1. So my first step is actually to get rid of the 2. And then my second step is now to get rid of the 5. And so this could be considered a 2-step equation if you approach it from that direction. So I'm going to get n equals then a negative 6. And that would be our solution to that problem. Okay? So these take on a little bit different form. Hopefully this will be helpful when you see those types of equations in your algebra career. So this concludes our video on 2-step equations. Hopefully you'll have some success. Thank you.